Hey there, welcome to this lesson on the framework that I teach, which we call the Fear to Fierce financial formula. This is actually a 6 step process, but in this lesson, we're going to talk about just the first 5 steps so you understand where you're probably coming in on this and where we're going to get you inside this free community. So, the purpose of this lesson is to teach you my formula and make sure you understand that this is a roadmap to take you from trading time for money to full financial freedom. And I define financial freedom as the moment when your monthly passive income exceeds your basic expenses, so you no longer have to trade time for money. At this point, work is optional. And if you are going to work, it's going to come from a place of generosity and desire to actually exchange valuable service with the world, as opposed to just kind of clocking in, clocking out because we have to make ends meet. That work comes from a very different place, and it actually ends up being much more valuable to community around you. So we want to make sure that you are completely financially free, and that is what this training is all about. So you have a basic overview of how I'm going to help you get there. So, the very first step of the Fear to Fierce financial formula is to achieve cash flow. Cash flow is when you are earning more money than you're spending every month. So, usually at cash flow, we are doing that with a job or with your own existing business. If you have not yet achieved cash flow, your business is unprofitable, or you have a job, but you're not making ends meet and you're spending more than you make every month, maybe you're going into debt, etc. There are really only 2 ways to achieve cash flow to arrive at step 1, right? You either can earn more or spend less. It really isn't any more complicated than that. And so I have a special low ticket coaching program to help women who are stuck at square zero. You've got a job or you've got a business, but it's not earning enough money for you to just make a basic living, right? Pay your basic bills. If you're stuck right there, I want to let you know that the Plan Her Profits method is exactly where you need to be. I'm not going to have the time to cover that fully in this lesson, but just so you know, like I said, the only 2 things we can possibly do are either spend less or earn more. And inside Plan Her Profits, you're going to learn how to do both. So you're going to learn our budgeting method called the Financial Grip System of Budgeting, okay, which will help you create a budget you can actually stick to, even if you have struggled in the past with poor spending habits. And it also allows you to have your budget right in front of you while you're making purchases. That's a very wonderful budgeting system we're going to teach you how to do. And we're going to help you to scale your existing business to the point where it's profitable. You have extra cash every single month with which to do investing. All right. So these are the topics that are taught inside Plan Her Profits. Now, once you have achieved cash flow, the next step in the Fear to Fierce financial formula is for you to create an emergency fund. And here's why. We don't want to start, chasing butterflies and creating passive income streams and creating and buying investments and things like that if we don't have something to fall back on, some kind of nest egg, some kind of cushion in case life happens. So what we're going to do is I'm going to walk you through how to calculate how much your emergency fund really needs to have inside of it. Now, typical financial advice, if you go to Edward Jones or, the financial advisor from your boss, etc., will tell you that you want to have between 3 to 6 months worth of basic expenses. And that's a pretty good rule of thumb. And of course, we want to keep this liquid, right? Liquid means that it's in cash or it's in assets that can be easily converted to cash. So you don't want to keep your emergency fund in the stock market or use your emergency fund to buy a home, right? Like now you still technically have it, but it's not liquid anymore. You can't access the cash if you need it. So typically, however, people say that you need like 3 to 6 months worth of basic expenses. And that is a pretty good rule of thumb. However, there are ways that we can lower the necessity to have an emergency fund. Now, the first step we want to do in order to create our emergency fund is to make an assessment of your risks. Okay. We want to walk through, hey, what are the things the most common disasters I'm most likely to encounter? right? What are the situations I have in my life that are exposing me to danger? So if you're a homeowner, you have the exposure of potentially having a fire or a flood in your home, right? Or a home invasion. If you're a business owner online, then you have the potential for a cyber attack or being hacked. So we want to make a list of all these risks. And from those risks, we can use different financial tools like insurance, etc., to lower your necessity to have a very large emergency fund. Now, we do want to create an emergency fund that is large enough that you'll be okay if anything ever goes wrong. So that is step 2 of the Fear to Fierce financial formula, is putting that emergency fund in place. Now, step 3 is to start finding funding to do investments. Remember, we want to become financially free, which means we need to own an investment portfolio that pays us every single month so we can have our bills covered without us having to trade time for money. In order to accomplish that, we have to buy or build those investments, those assets that are going to pay us. And so, of course, we got to find the funding in order to do that. There are 2 different strategies that I teach inside my programs to help you find that funding. What we don't want to do is fund this out of your own pocket, right? You don't want to be borrowing against your 401k to start a business, or, borrowing from your family's emergency fund in order to do investing. What we want to do is we want to do our best to find outside sources of funding. That can be grants, that can be private investors, that can also be building up your business credit. And no matter what, inside this free community, we're going to talk about how to find investors, how to negotiate those deals, how to secure the funding that you need so you can start investing, even if it's not coming out of your own pocket. So that is definitely a topic we'll be talking about a lot inside this free community. So that is step 3 of the Fear to Fierce financial formula, is finding the funding to do investing. Step 4 is to put proper protection in place. A recent study was done of Americans because they found that 78% of Americans are behind on retirement. And when asked what their plan was to catch up on retirement, the number 1 response was to win the lottery. And the number 2 response was to sue a rich person. So if I, as your money coach, am going to take responsibility for you achieving financial freedom, and I'm going to help you build wealth, I think I also should probably teach you how to protect yourself against the jerks out there who are too lazy or evil to actually build their own wealth and would rather just steal yours. So we're going to talk about how to protect your assets against lost income and against lawsuits and things like that. And for this, I lean on my very dear friend and business partner, Destiny Bounds, who is a business attorney and estate planning attorney here in Kansas City. She has multiple different lessons that we have recorded for you guys, both here inside the free community as well as inside my paid programs. And we're going to talk about 2 tools that you can use to protect your assets against lawsuits and other types of risks. One is insurance, as I mentioned before, having things like liability insurance and life insurance, etc., to make sure that you are protected in case those circumstances happen. But also, Destiny has an entire legal roadmap of things like contracts and legal entities and other legal tools that we can use to protect our wealth. What we're trying to do with these 2 tools, these 2 types of tools, is we're trying to lower your liability. Liability is a legal term. It means the state of being legally responsible for something. So let's say that you, as part of your investment portfolio, you purchase a home and you start renting it out on Airbnb. And then someone comes and they're staying in your Airbnb and they trip and fall and they bang their head, right? Well, we want to make sure that while that person should be protected, what if they did it on purpose? What if they, were drunk at the time or whatever, right? Like, what if it wasn't actually your fault? We want to make sure that you're not being held liable for something that you shouldn't have to be responsible for. So using insurance, using legal entities, we can transfer or limit your liability to protect your assets and wealth. So that is what Destiny teaches. Inside the Fear to Fierce financial formula, we have step 4, which was that proper protection of your wealth and assets. Once we've done those 4 steps, now you're totally ready to roll. These 4 steps usually do not take a very long time. If you're totally broke, they're going to take longer. But most of the time, if you have already achieved cash flow, now you've got some extra money to spend every month, we're going to put that towards a little bit towards some insurance, a little bit of it towards your emergency fund, and then boom, bam, bang, we're going to be ready for building wealth. Now, inside my programs, we teach wealth building strategies in a very specific way. We don't teach invest a little bit over time every month until age 65 and then finally become financially free when you're too old to actually enjoy it. That's not what I teach. We teach strategies for building passive income, and there's 2 ways we're going to do that. All right. The first one is we're going to show you how to leverage the power of compounding interest. Okay. Compounding interest is how we go ahead and put in $1 and we make back 3. We put in $3 and we make back 6. We put in $6 and make back $6.50, right? Depending on that interest rate, we're going to make our money make more money. So we're going to teach you different strategies for using compound interest to build wealth. The other way we're going to build wealth and do passive income is by leveraging what's called your intellectual property. Your intellectual property is anything that is the result of your creativity, something you've created, right? An invention, a coaching program, your business, your manuscript, your design, your SaaS company, your software, right? Anything to which you have the rights. You own the rights to that, and you could apply for a patent, a copyright, or a trademark. That is your intellectual property. And inside my programs and right here inside the free community, we talk about strategies for using your intellectual property to earn passive income, such as creating online courses, selling digital products, trademarking your services and licensing out those trademarks, licensing out those creative works to other entities, inventions and how we leverage those, right? With big companies like software, patented products, algorithms, apps, etc., medical devices, how we leverage those out to companies that will produce them for us. Your trade secrets inside your business, how we can leverage that, right? As well as e-commerce with things like drop shipping and print on demand. These are the strategies that we teach inside this community and inside our paid programs. So we're going to use both these intellectual property passive income streams, as well as compounding interest and more traditional retirement strategies, all of which is meant to help you build passive income, which is a form of investing where we build a portfolio of cash flowing assets until you no longer have to trade time for money to earn a living. So that is where we're going inside this community. That is what you're getting access to with our free resources. And that is what you're going to find inside my paid coaching programs. I hope this has been helpful for you, and I will see you in the next lesson.